Welcome, everyone. As you said, Jen, this conversation has never been more relevant, as pretty much every day is Bring Your Kids to Work Day. So we're here to discuss how we can nurture both our families and our passions, even in these challenging times, and also help create structure and find support to fulfill our potential as mothers and women. Mara.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. So Mara Martin is a model, mom, and women's advocate who boldly walked down the catwalk at a Sports Illustrated casting, breastfeeding her 5-month-old daughter. Dr. Jessica Shepard, OBGYN and founder of Her Viewpoint, an online women's health forum. And Dana Kirwin is here from Medela. She's the director of employer groups at the brand and also led the initiative New Moms Healthy Returns. So Mara, let's kick it off by going back to that moment when you walked down the runway at a Sports Illustrated casting, breastfeeding your 5-month-old baby. What surprised you most about the reactions you received?
I think, well, first of all, a little backstory about it. I was 5 months postpartum, and I took her to this casting because I didn't have a babysitter. And after college, I was modeling my whole life. And, you know, Sports Illustrated is like the big dream. You know, Sports Illustrated is like the end goal. So when they had this casting, I was either, I had to choose between, staying home or taking her. So I took her to the casting, and there's like 10,000 girls there, and it got dwindled down to 16, and I made the top 16 to walk the runway. So of course I was thrilled. But during that whole process, I was parenting too. I mean, I was breastfeeding exclusively. So I was, during the casting, I was breastfeeding the entire time. So throughout the 3-day casting process, it wasn't anything abnormal seeing me breastfeed because I was doing it the whole time. So when the runway show hit, it was supposed to go on at 8 o'clock and it got pushed back till 9, and it was around her bedtime. And so I was a little devastated because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just, accomplished this big goal, this big dream of Sports Illustrated, and now I can't do it. But so I was breastfeeding backstage, and the editor, MJ Day, who's also a working mom, it was this 30-second conversation between us. She said, hey, if you want to do it, go for it and do it. I get goosebumps every time I tell the story. But she said, if you want to go that up thing, it was a very a 30-second conversation. So when we did the runway walk and got done, we were so surprised to see this overwhelming amount of support around the world. I mean, it was everywhere. It was 20 billion impressions worldwide. And I think at the time I was very surprised because I was a new mom. I didn't really get it. But now, a year and a half later, I realized it was such a powerful moment, not just for breastfeeding, it normalized breastfeeding, but also it was normalizing motherhood in a sense. I was 5 months postpartum. I didn't have a 6-pack. I was, still out of shape a little bit and, bouncing back. And also normalized, this working mom that, after you have a baby, you give up your dreams and you can still go for it. And that's where I think I really started to understand, like, wow, this resonated with a lot of women and a lot of mothers. And it wasn't just about breastfeeding. It was about this, bigger picture.
Speaking, more about nurturing your passions and parenting simultaneously, is there anything that you've found in terms of creating a structure or finding some kind of plan that allows you to do both?
Are you asking for me? Yeah, it's funny because out of all of you guys, I feel like I have the least structured life. My job is a model and influencer, and I'm writing. So no 2 days are the same. So I literally don't have a lot of structure. But I realized with parenting is that there's no one way to do things, and there's no one right way to parent. And what worked for me may not work for you or someone else, but it doesn't matter. What works for you, that works for you. And for us, that's the beauty of parenting. There's no right way to do it, and we all kind of figure it out as we go.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Dr. Shepard, Mara mentioned, postpartum, your body's not quite back to normal. Never mind the, weight or shape or anything like that. The hormones really a while to reset. And sometimes your hormones may never really go back to kind of what your experience was before having a baby. Is there anything that you recommend for women postpartum in terms of getting themselves and feeling themselves like back to what they used to be, or I guess adapting to, you know, the new balance in your body?
Yeah, I think initially it was like a lot of book smarts for me. I was like, oh, I know how labor goes. I know how postpartum goes because I've read it all in the books. And then when I had my kids, I was like, oh, well, isn't this a pleasant surprise that wasn't in the books? And what I found is I tuned into a great community of moms in the medical profession who allowed me to understand that it's more of an emotional process and a psychological process more than we realize, because yeah, your body's just not going to go back to what it was. And also there's a lot of hormonal changes that contribute to that emotional kind of roller coaster, for calling it for what it is. And so I think that if we don't focus so much on the outcome of I want my body to look like this, or I need my schedule to be like this, is allowing that flexibility, because we have to, there's a lot of underestimation of what that emotional aspect looks like after. It's one of those things where you it's a train kind of like a mess, but you don't know what the mess actually is until you're in it. And you're like, oh, this really is a mess. Yeah, okay, well, I get it. And so I think one of the things that is, we downplay postpartum depression too much. And I think that the resources that are available are at a paucity, and we could do much better with that. So I usually tell new moms, 8 months to a year, that should be your expectation of what you could think some quote unquote normalcy would look like. Because again, it is a new normal, will never be like it was before you had your first or your second or your third, but allowing that time and allowing emotionally for you to heal goes a long way.
Yeah, thank you for that. Speaking of, how overwhelming it can be having a newborn, and, in that postpartum stage, Dana, given these strange and uncertain times of social distancing, how do you recommend and connect with them?
I'm so sorry. There was some feedback. Can you ask that again?
Oh yeah, sure.
How do I recommend what?
Is there anything you can recommend in terms of how new moms can find support groups, especially in these isolating times?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. And like you said, we're kind of all going through it. And for a lot of moms, this is a really new experience. They're used to being in the office. They're used to having a lot more social interaction. If you're like me, you signed up for a new moms group right after you had your baby. So there were some fellows in the trenches with you that you could compare notes. And a lot of that's a lot harder now. So at Medela, we really take this seriously. And I think there's a lot of ways for moms to find support. I mean, obviously, we're using social media, and we've remarked with friends a number of times how grateful we are that technology is where it is, because it's made this so much more bearable. But there's a lot of resources out there that moms can tap into. Medela really knows moms well. We care a lot about that new experience and those transitions. And one of the programs we offer is a free resource to new moms called the Moms Room. And that's a program moms can sign up for to get regular information based on where they're at in their journey. And we also connect moms who are a part of the Moms Room together in a Facebook community where they can talk about this experience. So beyond your immediate support network and your own friends, look into resources that you can trust that are out there helping to facilitate some of this conversation.
Thanks so much. So, going back to work brings about a lot of feelings for new moms. I personally cried for 3 days before I started work again. And that was about a year ago when I started work again. So it hasn't been too long. What do you all recommend in terms of like, how do you process those feelings and, and keep moving?
I know when I went back, I felt the same. I was lucky I was able to take 12 weeks off with my son, but it went really fast. And he was still really small. When I dropped him off at daycare that first day, same thing, just cried the whole way into the office. And, I think part of it, Dr. Jessica was saying this, reminding yourself this is normal. Reminding yourself that this is temporary. It's important to know when you're in it, it is not permanent. And remembering that you're not alone. Moms feel this, all moms feel this, and it's okay to feel it, and it's okay to talk about it. And within my role, I feel really lucky. My job at Medela is to bring resources and information to employers, and we're working to try to help employers do more for those moms as they're re-entering the workforce, because that transition is very emotional and very overwhelming, because life isn't like it was before the baby. And sometimes you show up and you don't look pregnant anymore, and it's like everyone has moved on and they forgot that you just had a baby and you're dealing with this huge change. So we're out there really trying to talk to employers about what they can be doing to support those moms. And we also really advocate that moms need to step up and feel comfortable telling their employer what they need. Asking their employer what's available, and setting expectations directly with their manager can go a really long way to making sure you're just on the same page.
One of the things I wanted to add to that is definitely getting back into that workspace is so overwhelming. I remember, going back to doing surgeries, and, it was like, oh, you're stuck in a surgery, and when can I go pump? So I think a lot of times as mothers, we set these expectations that are so high and really rigid, because that's who we are as women. We're trying to fill all these different buckets and plates. And now there's a new human that we're trying to, provide for and be that like happy mom, because we want to be happy around the baby. And then inside we're not feeling that happy or beautiful or whatever it is. Is I think in the workspace, we have a lot of work to do. I mean, if you think of other countries who do account for that, for example, so I'm from Canada, shout out to Canada, but they allow moms to have up to a year of maternity leave. So we have a lot of work to do. And I think that's where we could, place some of our emphasis in companies, structuring them so that they actually account for that transition back into the workspace. Because the thing is, it's not that we can't do the work. It's just that we need some adjustment in order to accomplish the goals and while still caring for this new human. And that's where we go through advocacy and legislature as far as getting people to understand what that looks like going back into the workspace. Because if you look at the workforce, women make up probably majority of the workforce. So how is it that we're, such a big part of the workforce, but the workforce is not working for us? So I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Dana, is there anything that we could be doing as women, as moms, as working women to better educate businesses, our HR or any kind of leadership in corporate America on what we really need as moms to succeed and stay in the workforce if we choose?
Yes, there's a lot of information out there that can support women who want to have that conversation. And I would encourage women, whether you're a new mom, an expecting mom, or whether your kids are grown and you want to advocate for other moms because of what you've been through, it is absolutely important that we carry the message forward and don't assume that the leaders either already know what to do or don't care to do it, because sometimes it's the other option. They don't know that it's a problem or they don't know what to do to fix it. And so we have some resources for our new Moms Healthy Returns program. We actually have a letter on our website for moms that they can actually send right to their HR leader to say, hey, here's my situation and here's what I need. We encourage moms to go ask their HR leader or their manager, what's our breastfeeding policy? What are the resources available? What benefits do you offer for working parents? A lot of times there might be things available that just really well communicated, or that before baby you never thought to seek out. We really encourage moms to find a bosom buddy at work. Find another woman who's had a baby in your workplace and learn from her, because she probably has 10 lessons off the top of her head that she says, boy, I wish I'd known this in my first 30 days back, instead of figuring it out, 6 months later. And the last thing I would say is, don't be afraid to do a little research on the state legislation out there. Our partner on the New Moms Healthy Returns program is an organization called Mamava, and we have a link to their website to where they keep up-to-date information on all the state-level laws for breastfeeding. And you can find what your state is doing. And if you go look at, for example, California, you can see what some best practice states are doing, and take that back to your HR leaders. Even if it's not the requirement in your state, if they understand what some of the best practices are, you might be surprised how willing they are to step up and do more for the employees in your company.
And I think every mom tuning in here has experienced some kind of working mom guilt. Do any of you have tips on, overcoming that seemingly unavoidable feeling, really?
I feel like I need to listen to this advice, because I have it so bad. And I'm, I told you guys my job is so non-traditional, but I feel like one of you guys touched on this earlier, but it's not permanent, what you're going through, having that guilt. But I do think it's very normal. I think everyone experiences it to some level. And even me, I'm at home with her most of the time, where I can take her to my job with me. But I realized when I was working with her, that I was doing too much, almost trying to fill all of these things, where I was on my computer, but also trying to be a mom and a parent at the same time. And all of a sudden I'm like half doing everything. And it's okay to feel a little guilty that, oh, my work's suffering here, or my work or my parenting suffering. And I think, talking about it more with everybody and realizing that we're all kind of doing the same thing and feeling it. But I would love to hear you guys' advice, because I feel like I need it the most. So I just feel, I think it's a really common thing that we all go through.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think,
it's hard, right?
Yes, I think we all feel it. I have to say my job, not too different from yours. I work from home most of the time. I'm a remote employee for Medela. So when I'm home, it's great. There's a lot more FaceTime, but I'm also on the road for this job. Part of my job is selling. And so I'm out at shows or events, meeting with clients, and I don't see my son for a few days at a time. And that's pre the quarantine. That was a part of the routine. And I think, I certainly struggled with that guilt and feeling bad for being away. But I also remind myself that empowering my husband to be a primary caretaker some of the time, that's really important for him, and really important for him and his relationship with my son. I also try to remind myself that being a working woman and a woman with a career is a model I want to show my child. I want him to grow up in a world where that's normal. Moms and dads both work. And I think the other piece is, like you said, it's normal. We're all dealing with this. And I think what's more important than trying to be perfect all the time is just making sure you make a little bit of time to be really present. And that's what your kid is going to remember. If your child looks at you and they love you and they know they're loved, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think also to add to that, what you touched on is like everything I'm doing is for her, whether I'm working or if I'm home, just being hands-on with her, like I'm doing it for her to set an example or to be there and be present with her. So I think it's a really good point.
Just to add about the physiology of the bond between a mother and a baby, it's innately there, and so a lot of times that guilt is something that we feel. Most times babies are like, I thought you were here all the time. I didn't even notice that you were gone. But we're here counting the minutes and we're like, I can't believe I have to do this. I have to get back to the baby. But that bond is there and it's strong. So, you know, kind of what Dana was saying is like when you're there is maximizing those moments and making them really special. That's what they'll remember, the experiences. So it's enriching those experiences more so than us feeling like every waking moment we have to be there touching them in their face. They really want to solidify that bond that's already there. So I think once we realize that, one, we'll have an easier time setting time away for ourselves, which is really important as well in the growth of ourselves as mothers, but also for that bond that they too realize mom needs time away to do the things that enrich us. I think that kind of nurtures that bond as well. So, you know, to all the moms out there, whether you have newborns, or even, you know, mine are 6 and 5, is always remembering, one, that bond is innate. So it's really important to make sure when you have time with them to be there, make those moments matter. And 2 is that you need time for yourself as well. So it's kind of like routine and habit. If you start routines that don't kind of carry on, then it's harder to break them. So from the time that they're born is saying, I need 20 minutes a day, or I need 30 minutes a day, or whatever that is making sure that you adhere to that. So everyone kind of falls in line to time away is okay. Time away is okay.
Personally, that's something that I came to, you know, this conclusion that just because I'm not changing every diaper and doing every feeding doesn't mean I'm being a bad mom. Mm-hmm. And that by working and, you know, contributing to our family, I'm setting an example for her. And, you know, really trying to maximize the time that you do have with them has been something that my husband and I have also focused on. Dr. Shepherd, just one last question actually from the audience. How can women be better advocates for themselves health-wise? Specifically, we've seen a lot of disparity with minorities kind of not voicing or advocating for themselves as much. And, you know, there's disparities in outcomes among minorities. Absolutely.
So I think that one of the things, and we're seeing that now, it's being magnified as obviously there is a racial disparity. And what I found in the pregnancy kind of capacity and early childhood and infancy is we are seeing an increased risk of maternal mortality in the Black and Brown communities is being okay with advocating for yourself. And, you know, a lot of the articles and contributions I've made during this pandemic time, because it's highlighted and working with, you know, people like March of Dimes, organizations like March of Dimes, is that once we take care of mom, and that actually happens during pregnancy, when there's any issues during pregnancy and baby's not doing as well, we always focus on mom. We're like, okay, if mom's taken care of, then baby most times will have a better outcome. So that carries on even after delivery, is taking care of mom, or even during the pregnancy. So one of the things that I found that is very helpful for patients during pregnancy and decreasing that maternal mortality rate is having someone with you during visits, having someone with you when you need to get information, even if it's like picking up a prescription. So you have that person who's accountable to you, who you trust, and also there to hold the information that you get, so that there's two people now that have that information, so it's easier to keep that core messaging the same. And the other thing that I've found too is, as a community, there are things that we don't like to discuss. As a community, is doing better with that, is getting the messaging out to the community so we can all have that same messaging. So it really comes down to messaging. What is important? What are the evidence-based things that we know, and that the information that needs to be disseminated? But also, we also need to make sure that we advocate for ourselves and make sure that we know it is okay to voice out, I'm not understanding what we're discussing. What are some other options? and what is going on and what does that mean to me and the baby. So I think when you kind of break down the message into little pockets, it's easier to digest. A lot of times as doctors, you know, we have things that we need to work on from our perspective as well, which is we spit out all this information and everyone looks at us and they're like, I don't know what you said. So we have a responsibility as well to make sure that our message is something that, one, people want to hear, and two, that they're able to actually take it and use it. So I think on both ends, we have a lot of work to do, but those are one of the things that I'm very passionate about, is making sure that our communities are taken care of and how we can do a better job at that.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Shepherd. And we'll close with those remarks